Good day and good evening, and welcome to Dailies Hangout stream with me, Caetsu Chaiji. You can just call me Kai. As usual, we'll be going through all of the, well, most of the dailies. We're not doing guild tests, and we're not doing mental roulette. But other than that, we're doing all of them. And for anything where leveling is concerned, I will be playing Red Mage. That's the plan. Which also, of course, means that for Expert Roulette, I'll play something else. With that said, hey Chris, hey Zaf, hey Aradil, hey Grace, hey Rost, hey Fatman, hey Agent Monica, hey Tristan, hey Ceres, hey Giraheen, hey Emia, hey me who else, hey Allers, hey Caetsu, hey Cyanide, hey Mers. Hope you're all doing very well. Yes, this guild test isn't real, it can't hurt me. Well, I would like you to to try and open up Mentor Roulette for a bit. If you can get it to work with if you can get that one, just dink that one and do that like a dozen times and it doesn't give you a single guild test, then the next thing you should do is like buy a lottery ticket. You don't have Mentor Roulette? Oh, okay. Also, hey, DMI Miles, hope you're doing well. Yeah, thank you, Ardell. It is true. Not entirely sure how much or exactly how, but usually liking a stream while it is running does also indicate to YouTube that it's a good stream. So sometimes it helps. So it's very much appreciated. Thank you. You're 750 commendations off. Well, then there's a bit of a ways to go. Also, while we're on the subject of remembering, remember to grab your Wondrous Tales, everyone. Grab that Wondrous Tales. I don't think people hate you, Emir. I think... So the thing is, an uncommon, I would say, common to uncommon problem is that as you cannot receive commendations from people you queued with, the more regularly you play with friends or otherwise premates, the less commendations you will receive. Like, to put it bluntly, my commendations per duty completed has significantly decreased, like my average, as well, as I've started to be able to have friends in my groups more regularly. Also, thank you, Mers, and welcome to the Cult of the Pink. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the emotes. Remember that if you are in the Discord server as well, that if you connect your YouTube account to your Discord account, you will get a special role there as well. Batman says it's what? 1500 comms? Correct. It's precisely 1500 commendations. So it takes a long time. See, the thing is, for me, it's really weird, and that's also something that I've talked about before, is that I had the advantage of getting into the game and becoming a mentor initially when you only needed 300 commendations to become a mentor. And by the time they moved the goalpost to 1500, I was like, yeah, so I have that. Like, it didn't even move the needle. I was like, okay, fine. But the reason why it feels like such a big step is because, and I've also said that before it was specifically 300 commendations, and they didn't like move it in steps after that. They didn't go like, well, now it's 400, now it's 500, now it's 600. They went 300. We should have moved that a while ago, and they just set it to 1500. Like, just times 5. Alright, Dima Miles, good luck. And also, hey, Philippe and Emily and Celestial Illusions, hope you're doing well. And also Ham, hope you're doing well as well. And Cat, I think. Yep, Cat. They haven't moved it in Dawntrail. I don't think they moved it in Endwalker either. I'm pretty sure they moved it in Shadowbringers. And they just went like, yeah, 1500, that's good. Abukaj, Araxon, and Pixel, hope you're doing well. Araxon says, what's that emote? This emote is Lop Hop. You get this emote by maxing out these 3 tribes from Endwalker. Once you've maxed out all 3 and done their quests, there will be an extra final quest, and that quest will give you this dance. And it will take you a while, because there's a daily limit on how many tribe quests you can do. So, like, start today, not tomorrow. It's a nice one, Zaf. It's wild how different in difficulty Rathalos Extreme can be sometimes. Emily says, in my experience, the best way to get commendations are to 1, play tank or a healer, and 2, get duties that have unusual but required mechanics like A9 and be able to teach them in that order. Yep, that often helps a lot. This is actually also something that makes it... this is actually part of the reason why it is weird that there is this almost like meta in spamming guild tests to get commendations. Because when you spam guild tests, nearly none of them, and honestly, like basically none of them are actually challenging, and in the fringe cases where something resulted in them being challenging, there's usually an argument to be made that the group is probably not very happy, and they're probably not going to give anyone commendations anyway. But precisely because guild tests are not very challenging, and also in some capacity because of how little time they take, you could say, yeah, but it only takes you 2 seconds to give out the commendation. Yeah, but that's actually a 10% increase in the time I need to spend in this guild test. Like, what, 20 seconds? Okay, 30 seconds, but you get my point. So, by doing content that is extremely easy and takes no time, you don't give anyone any reason to give you a commendation. But if you're playing something that is difficult and you're doing it well, then people are more likely to give you a commendation. But yeah, the ways that you can accumulate commendations, Emir says, I play tank and I don't get anything. Well, Emir, you also play tank a lot with friends, I'm pretty sure. And that also, like, that reduces the potential amount of commendations you can get. But the ways you can get commendations is play really well, like, for example, as a tank, you need to pull big, of course. You need to pull well, of course. You need to do your rotation well, of course. And you need to use your defensive cooldown so well that the healer doesn't feel stressed. Unfortunately, as people have realized, some players have realized that tanking, quote-unquote, might not be that hard, in quotations. There's a higher chance that if a DPS is playing really well and people notice it, like if the duty goes really fast, they'll give the commendation to a DPS for some reason sometimes. Another trick you can do is play healer. Yep, you're coming through loud and clear, Menely. One thing you can do is play healer, and if you want to go a step further, play Astrologian. Why Astrologian? Because if you give cards to people, they appreciate that. It sounds ridiculous because obviously you're supposed to do that anyway. It's like going, oh man, that dancer was really good. They actually used closed position. Right? Like, it kind of feels like that. But there is something to it that if you give, for example, your melee cards to a particular player, like a particular individual, there's a higher chance, like if they actually recognize that you're giving them cards, they'll notice that you're giving them cards and not someone else. And they might feel compelled to give you a commendation just because they're like, well, I can't give you anything. I could give you this. You have a commendation. Yeah, it is easier to get commendations as tank and healer, simply because they're more front and center. It's more obvious when you're doing something right. But that doesn't mean that you necessarily get them. I'm pretty sure you do get some commendations in here. But the important thing is that if you go into a duty and expect commendations, you're just going to get disappointed. The best you can do is go into a duty and not expect commendations. Then you'll be happy when you get them. Oh, nice. Thank you for celebrating 10 months in the Cult of the Pink, Matthew. Thank you so much for the support. Yes, Pixel, I am in lavender beds. I'm at my house. We just made a books. Really good, used closed position. Yeah. I have had some incredible ones, but I feel like with a dancer, not using closed position is like a tank not turning on their tank stance. Like, that just shouldn't, like, that shouldn't fly once you have closed position. Which is why I'm like, I wouldn't commend a dancer for using closed position. But what I would commend a dancer on is if I'm playing DPS, they used closed position on me, and I notice that technical finish and devilment don't drift apart over the course of the fight. So they're basically making sure that technical finish and devilment stick together. I might commend them just for that. And that also doesn't sound like much, but it isn't obvious that you should do that. It even more likely that I'll commend them over anyone else if I notice that their 2-minute burst aligns with my 2-minute burst consistently throughout the fight. Because then it means that they actually, like, maintained their rotation well. And yeah, in a dungeon, that takes immense effort. I wouldn't expect that from the dancer, that they'll do that perfectly in a dungeon, but in like a trial or a raid or something, then I would expect that. Like, I wouldn't expect it, but it would be impressed if they did it. Vimia says I have 1,500 duties and 750 commendations. Let's see what I have. Where's the lifer achievement? 6,422. I have a little bit more per duty. But I've also played... Like I have mentioned before, that in Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and Endwalker, I ultimately ended up maining either tank or healer because I didn't want to deal with DPS queues, which means that there was a large part of Stormblood and a large part of Shadowbringers and a large part of Endwalker where I did my dailies alone. Which gives you more commendations. Right then. If you would like to join me for Expert Roulette, come on over to me. Over here. I will switch to something that can actually do it. Once I know what we have. So I will flex. We have 3 extra people. Do we have a 4th extra person? Then we could actually get 2 expert roulettes going. We do have 2 teams if we want to have a group 2. Cult of the Red Mage. What? Oh, I don't have the upgraded weapon from AX1. A Pixel found us. Dynasty Illusion says 8,000 and something duties with 4.6k comms. That also sounds pretty normal to me. Hey, it looks like Zaf is making a group 2 for Expert Roulette. So if we have people that wanna, if we have more people that wanna do Expert Roulette, Zaf or Zafinstein is also making a group. But yeah, I could imagine that if you're doing it with tank or healer, your like commendations per duty will go up. But the thing is, this is an important detail also, Emir, when you say that seems a bit skewed. I've been playing really, really well for several expansions, right? So I've had more time to just like get an average of like 1 commendation per duty. Yeah. Why is it over at Narnia? Come over here, big guy. I feel like this is the first time I've gotten Tender Valley in like a week. Is there a way to track duty count after 10k completed? I don't know. So my guess is no. I don't know if there's like a statistic you can check somewhere. Hey Lexi, hope you're doing well. And that is an interesting side effect of these kinds of achievements being used for tracking these kinds of things. Is once you've actually maxed it out, then you'd need an even bigger achievement. Or they'd have to actually show you the metric somewhere. Oh yeah, that's where I put Philosophia. In the one open slot. Incredible. Oh, that's nice, Lexi. What about Trials and Rage? Surely you can get comms there. The life achievement we're using to track this, Rust, is tracking duties. Even though it's under dungeon, it tracks duties in general. Which means that it also counts that time you queued, where you went unrestricted into Ifrit alone, normal, just to punch his face because it's funny. And there's no one to give you a commendation. And it also counts, it counts any completed duty, whether there's people to commend you or not. Which also is like, if I didn't do like, I think there's at least like several dozen duties completed on mine, that is from the solo challenge streams, where I have no ability to get any commendations. So there's the possibility that if I hadn't done all that random solo stuff, my statistic would have looked even crazier. Ugh, that was a little awkward. Oh no. That's an awkward angle. No comms, only likes for the solo duties. I guess so. I guess so. Oh right, my dot. I think I've been a little late with my lucid dreamings. That's why my MP is so low. He says, can I have lucid dreaming? You almost kinda do. Although blood weapon is kinda not as impressive as it used to be, huh? I'm still surprised that they decided to change it so that blood weapon only has 3 stacks, but they didn't change how much MP it grants, which means that it's technically a nerf. I don't understand why they decided to do it like that. I'm guessing that they balanced Dark Knight with that in mind. But still weird. Like it was so easy. They just had to make it so that it was like, yeah, it should be well, I shouldn't have done that. They should have just made it so that it was 3 stacks as it is, but they should change the MP gain per stack from 600 to 1000. Boom. Now you can't now there's no difference. It's just faster. They didn't do it like that. I'm sure there's a reason. It's just weird that they didn't do it like that. I actually, in a video I put up quite a while ago where I talked about button bloat, I specifically suggested combining blood weapon and delirium. And I'm pretty sure that I talked about how, well, they don't have the same amount of stacks. But you could just make it so that they had the same amount of stacks and just balance it around that, but they didn't do that. They think suffering is a core component of playing Dark Knight. Well, I mean... I mean... Are they wrong? Are they right? I don't even know. Should it be? Ow. Hi, Gleaming. Hope you're doing well. It is funny. with the first boss in this dungeon that I see. It's somewhat regular that I see someone get tripped up by the first boss. But I personally often find this boss trips me up more. I think the primary reason is that almost every time I will look at the bombs and go, okay, I have a pretty good idea of where they go. Wait a minute. There's also the line AoEs coming in from the side, and I always forget to account for that. And then I move for that one in the last moment. Yeah, exactly, Emily. That one too. Yeah. Wow. These are really, really painful. I feel like I should have used Philosophia for this instead. Whoops. It's not my finest hour. Ow. In my defense, I think I've done that pull as a healer like twice. That was where I should have used Panheim, actually. That has also been good on the previous pull. Oh well. At least we didn't have any deaths on the boss. Hey Rajin, hope you're doing well as well. Thank you. Since you're a sage, you still have plenty of resources? Sure, but I kind of spent my best ones for sustained damage in an AoE pull. Sustained damage on everyone in an AoE pull for the boss prior. I used the best ones. But you're right, I had more stuff. Never has a DPS button. It is. And you know what? I completely forgot to use it. Somehow I've completely forgotten to use it. Thank you for reminding me. Bouncy Council.
Yeah.
Do you have another Bouncy Council? Alright, it's Labyrinth time. It's really funny that it's always that shape. It's always, like, it's almost always that exact path. I know they didn't exactly have a lot of space to do like, a lot of different patterns, but it's just impressive that it's almost always that exact pattern, I feel like. Isn't Nevma DPS neutral? On single target. On AoE, it's actually a slightly better Toxicon. And Toxicon is a slight DPS gain over Dyscrasia. So it's like, it's not a huge amount, but it, you know, it's there. It's something. It is funny how big of a difference it makes to have a, whoops, 1 minute cooldown OGCD to use on cooldown as a healer, as opposed to a DPS. Hey Rocky, hope you're doing well. And Krakenmo. Now they need to give a boss both the conveyor picker path maze combined with a debuff that scrambles your directions, or a forced march, so like a Mario Party minigame. Is Psych fun? I don't think it's bad. I think it's a fine addition. Amy says, what note comes? Well, I mean, you set yourself up for that one. But yeah, exactly. Psych is just kind of a button. But here's the thing. It's one. Flemmer is also just a button. The dot to apply is also just a button. But, you know, you have to start somewhere. So I think Psych is a good start. Also, I think I'll fix the light. Surprisingly bright. Behind me. There you go, now you can see me better. Yeah, exactly, Celestial Illusion. The point is that if the thing that we want is healers with more buttons for attacking, then Psych is a good place to start. What I'm getting at. Like, it's a place to start. Is it incredibly deep? No. Is it complicated to use? No. Does it feel great to press? Maybe, for some. But admittedly, it's not exactly the most complicated button, but, I mean, you have to start with something, and this is something. That Angel says, any complaints or wishes with the new job abilities? I miss Dragon's Sight. I think it was probably for the best that they got rid of Dragon's Sight. It felt really awkward to use, and I know a lot of Dragoons just didn't like it. Like, for each Dragoon that did like it, I think there was a Dragoon that didn't like it. So I think it's fine. I think the important part is that they replaced it with something. But speaking of replacing it with something, I don't understand. I don't understand why Lance Charge doesn't upgrade into Gaishka Ghoul. Like, it feels like that makes sense. It makes sense to me, at least. They could have made it so that... Why would it? Well, look at this. 10% damage gain, 20-second duration. 1 minute cooldown. 15% damage gain, 20-second duration, 1 minute cooldown. It's the same, just with more on it. They could have made it so that Lance Charge was just... They could have made Lance Charge into... Well, actually... They could have made Lance Charge into Lance Charge, changed the icon, and made it so that it shoots out a line AoE in front of you. And, like, it's just weaker than Gaishka Ghoul. And then level 60 it upgrades into Gaishka Ghoul, and then, you know, at level 70 you get this interaction. But it just makes more sense. I would say if it does upgrade like that, you should probably say 20% here, or even 25%. And you know what would be really cool if it did say 25? Because it says 25% here. That'd be like some sort of connection. And that's the thing. That's the reason why I think that Lance Charge made sense if it upgrades to Gaishka Ghoul. Am I mad that it doesn't? No. I just think it would have made more sense if it did. It just would have made more sense if it did. To me. No, see, that's exactly what I mean, Giraheen. That's why I said they could have changed this. They didn't even need to change the name. They could have kept it as Lance Charge and just have it say, at level 30 when you unlock it, delivers an attack to all enemies in a straight line before you with a potency of 140 potency for the first enemy and 50% less for all remaining enemies, grants Lance Charge. Lance Charge effect increases damage dealt by 10%, duration 20 seconds. Then it could naturally upgrade into Gaishka Ghoul and, you know, increase the potency. They could have even made it more gradual, where it's like... Because that's not what they're doing here. They could have made it so that, like, you get Lance Charge, then at level 60, you get Gaishka Ghoul, and it gives you 1 Nastron stack. And then level 70, it gives you 2 Nastron stacks. And then level 80, it gives you Stardiver and 3 Nastron stacks. So, like, there's, like, a gradual evolution there. But they didn't choose to do that, and that's fine. But that's just me thinking out loud. In regards to your question, Bad Angel, complaints and wishes, it's a pretty broad question when it's like all jobs, because I could add something for most jobs. Like a little something for most jobs. Like, for example, Paladin, why doesn't Atonement have a job gauge yet? Why isn't Atonement a job gauge? Dark Knight, why is your filler rotation just 1, 2, 3s? Astrologian, while I appreciate this, I don't know how they could do it differently, but I feel like the fact that you kind of have to get your cards out of the way every minute makes me feel stressed to play those utility cards rather than tactical. That probably comes with practice. But that's how it feels. Pictomancer. Why is Fire and Red and Blizzard and Cyan separate buttons? Why is Holy and White and Comet and Black separate buttons? They shouldn't be. Summoner. Why did they not get anything significant? Like, I understand they got this and this. Their rotation is basically unchanged. They got an OGCD. It feels very, very lacking. It's cool with the Techno Bahamut and all that, but could have used a little more. Red Mage, I don't think I actually have anything for. I do have something. Why is it that there is a level range from level 84 to 93 where Jolt does more damage than the Fire and the Stone? That doesn't make sense. Black Mage. I don't understand why High Fire 2 and High Blizzard 2 got dumpstered like that. Buff them. Do something. It shouldn't be the case that the optimal AoE rotation doesn't include these buttons. They should be part of that. It's the same logic, and like if some of you are like, well, isn't that the same as the Blizzard 4 thing? Exactly. The reason why this is a problem is because it means that an optimal rotation doesn't make use of a button that should be part of it. Machinist. Why is Drill and Bioblaster not allowed to scale with skill speed just because they have charges? Is that a problem? Was that a problem? The fact that they don't has made Machinists hate skill speed even more. But I don't really have anything there. I haven't maxed it out yet, so I don't have that much I could say. Dancer, I don't really have that much. I would actually say, again, is there a problem with standard step scaling with skill speed? That would be nice. Take that one with you when you also fix Drill. Viper, we didn't have to lose Noxious Nash. We could have figured it out. Ninja. This one is a little strange, but I feel like they reworked Huton, looked at the situation and went, why do we give them an AoE Suiton so that they can use Trick Attack? Trick Attack is single target. Ah! I have a solution for you. At level 92, it upgrades into an AoE version. And me, who makes guides starting at level 1, then immediately goes, well, that means that Huton is an extremely specific ability until then. I looked over the numbers earlier, and Huton beats Suiton on 3 targets, but Katon beats Huton with Trick Attack on 5 targets. So there's a range of 3 to 4 targets where Huton is good. Until you get Kunai's Bane, of course. There's something there. Should they make Trick Attack AoE? I don't know, but this doesn't make sense. Reaper, I don't have that much. I don't really have that much. There was actually one weird thing that I noticed. This is really specific. Damage happens immediately. Damage happens immediately. There, the damage happened. Why is Executioner's Gallows like a second and a half late? And like that's a super small thing. It doesn't. I don't think it matters in any context, but that's really random. Really random when regular Gallows doesn't do that. And also, why is it Soul Slice can't scale with skill speed? Before Dawntrail, it always scaled with skill speed until it got its second charge. Now it never does. Why? Isn't the 1-2-3 combo late as well? I don't care about that, Fleep. The particular gripe I have here is regular Gallows damage immediately. Executioner's Gallows, notably better Gallows, takes a second and a half longer. If you compared it to something like Warrior, Nascent Flash hits, or Chaotic Cyclone hits late. But that's okay, because Decimate does too, and Steel Cyclone did too. So the upgraded version isn't worse in any regard. It's basically the same, just more damage. But Executioner's Gallows is slower for some reason. Does it matter? No. It's just weird. And then for Dragoon, I had the thing about Lance charging Geistgegul. Again, a really, really minor thing. Samurai... I still feel that the Kenki gauge feels a little pointless. Because originally, Samurai got their Kaiten, which boosted their next GCD, which they could spend 20 Kenki on, and that was like the thing you spend Kenki on. You also got your gap close and your like gap widener buttons in that level range, and then at level 62, when you get this, and basically you turn from having a small amount of Kenki generation over time to having a massive amount. They also gave you Shinten as a way to vent the insane amounts of Kenki you now had, right? So they gave you this button to get rid of the excess Kenki, because the primary purpose was Kaiten, right? Well, Kaiten is gone, so you only have the venting buttons. Then you learn like other buttons that spend some, and then you also like even later you get a button that is basically designed such that when you use the button that gives you 50, they give you a button that spends 50. Like, at level 96, they basically go, oh, those 50 are actually specifically for this. They could... I would say they could remove Shinten, Kyuten, and remove the cost on Sene and Gurren, and, I don't know, make it so that you just get Iki Shoten at level 90? I don't know. And then just get rid of the Kenki gauge. It feels like it doesn't have a home. But it's not like all this doesn't make sense. Like, Samurai have a rotation that is about building and spending, right? So it's not like this Kenki doesn't serve a purpose. It just feels weird because I was there when the buttons that we're using for to spend Kenki now were like the secondary option. Now they're the primary option. It's a little weird. And Monk... I don't feel like I've played Monk enough to know if there's a problem. But it does feel like something is missing with Twin Snakes and Demolish not doing their buffs and debuffs. No, I have something. Because there are no buffs and debuffs to maintain, the AoE combo feels very hollow compared to the single target combo. Can I get the AoE combo in order instead of only getting the second step 12 levels after the third step? I get where you're coming from, Kraken Mo, but you must understand that this is a game with a storied history. There was a time where you didn't have a step 2 AoE combo. That's not an excuse. That is not a good explanation, and it's not a good excuse, but it's a fact. Right. With that long list of complaints out of the way, should we actually play some Red Mage? Good old AR. Well, actually, Celestial, 4-point Fury was added in Shadowbringers. It was added in Shadowbringers. So from AR to Stormblood, you didn't have a step 2 AoE combo. Right, so if you would like to join me for... Whoops, I should do it like this. For high level dungeons, come on over to me. High level dungeons. Oh. You're already in a party. How would I invite you? You have to leave your party. I want to get everyone along, but you have to leave your party if you want to join me. Now, I have a group of 4 DPS. Do we have any tanks or healers? Exactly, so this time in correct order. Oh, perfect. Enjoy work, Kraken Mo, if you can. Not everyone can. That is actually an interesting point, Gasel. That with the changes to Monks 1, 2, 3, it might actually be fine if they made it similar to Vipers 1, 2, 3. But if they did that, ooh, then I feel like Monk would really feel kind of sucky to play. Like, whoa, it would feel very dreadful. But you know, now that you mention it, that really underlines how it might actually feel. Dreadful, viceful. Oh yeah, that's true. Dread has been removed. We don't have Dread anymore, everyone. We lost it in court. It went with a Noxious Nash. They call me the artillery mate. They realized we got rid of Dread and Endwalker. No, we fixed that. There is no Dread anymore. You've not gotten a single extreme yet, Banzile? That is actually impressive. It can be related to when you're queuing, but it could also be a data center thing. I don't know if it's a specifically Crystal thing or if it's an NA thing. As you must understand, I can only speak from what I've heard. But I have gotten the impression that NA might be a little more pushy with the don't queue for extremes thing. Like they might be a little more aggressive with that. I don't know. But if that were the case, it would make sense that you would see basically no extremes when queuing for Mentor Roulette. Hey Kate, hope you're doing well. Bad Angel says combining it into two combo buttons would ruin perfect balance, however. You would have no choice and would just press shiny button. Here's the thing, Bad Angel. Before Dawntrail, you sometimes had reason to start your perfect balance in a different way. Like, for example, if you needed your dot up, or you needed your damage buff up. Now, you don't really have any reason to start in any specific way. The order is actually completely irrelevant. The only exception there is, of course, that it wouldn't function with part of the way that Perfect Balance is designed, because you would, of course, have to, you know, do 3, like, of the same combo step, and you wouldn't be able to do that if they programmed it so you can't choose that. So like they'd have to change that. But ultimately, the original argument for it breaking perfect balance was that you might have active interest in like getting creative with the order that you do your combo in. But you don't have that interest anymore. So if they just made it so that you didn't need to make that decision anymore, then it wouldn't matter. That doesn't mean that it's not like that it doesn't matter, it's just that it doesn't matter nearly as much. It's like, imagine if they made it so that... So this was something that I actually brought up in that button bloat video that... I think I brought it up in that one. But it is a thing that can matter. Is while you could make it so that, for example, all combos are just a single button, a job like Paladin, while not particularly interested under normal circumstances in this, in really like niche situations, you might want to do fast blade, riot blade to like produce more MP quickly. But if you only have one button, then you can't do that. But what if they made it so that fast blade, riot blade, and royal authority all just recover like 400 MP? So it doesn't matter which step of the combo you're using. Problem solved. That's basically nearly where we are with Monk. Like that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like we're nearly there. There's still something missing to be able to do that. And that's not necessarily a good thing, but like that's the logic, is that if you don't actually have any reason to get creative with the combo sequence anymore, then, well, it could just be one button. Another thing that could matter is the hour. Oh yeah, that could also matter. I'm trying to figure out what time of day you should queue to not get guild hests in Mentor Roulette. Because it turns out it's not in the afternoon, and it's not at daily reset. For some reason, it's not at the daily reset. I was so confident it like daily reset would be the time where people wouldn't be spending their time in guild hests, but nope. Hey Derby, and also hey Eater It. Hope you're doing well. Guild Hests is active all the time for the challenge log. Well, let me put it like this, Gasol. In my recent experience with Mentor Roulette, I've seen the same person spamming Guild Hests for 4 hours. 4 hours. It's not the challenge log. It's commendation farming. It has to be. There is no other possibility after 4 hours. That's the reason why I'm talking about this, is exactly because it isn't the challenge log. It can't be the challenge log alone. So you also did guild hests for 4 hours? Yes, actually. Kind of. Kind of. I think they should be reportable, to be honest. Well, the problem there is that they didn't do anything illegal. So it wouldn't be reportable. I queued for a roulette where anything goes. They wanted to do guild hest, right? They wanted to do guild hest. Fine then. What I can do, though, is I don't give commendations in guild hests. I've started like, speed leaving in guild tests. Like, I leave extra fast. So that if they keep seeing me specifically in their groups, they might start to catch on to the fact that I don't give comms. And yeah, also that, Gleaming. How would it be illegal to spam guild test? Is there anything wrong with that? Cases, how to even leave guild test? The moment that it says duty complete, you do this, this, and this. Done. You don't get the reward from the battle warden. Shame. You don't get those, I don't know, like 3k XP or something and 100 gil for the fair home. Yeah, exactly. There's nothing wrong with someone spamming guild tests for 4 hours. That's their choice. That's why I'm saying I wonder how I could dodge them. Like, what can I do so that I don't play with them? Because they don't want to play with me, and I don't want to play with them. Strath says, I think if anything, actively soliciting commendations could be grounds for a report. Well, the thing is, they don't necessarily ask for commendations. What I usually see is you, like, queue into the duty, they're very friendly, and they, of course, stay to the very end. So, like, the only, like, proof that I have that someone would be spamming guild tests to farm commendations is if I see you queue for Under the Armor at 10, and then I'm still seeing you queue for Under the Armor at 11, and I'm still seeing you queue for Under the Armor at 12, then it's not the challenge log. And I just can't believe that Under the Armor is that fun. Rumble Extreme is the most painful experience? What do you mean? I love it. Genuinely, earlier today, I had a session of 7 guild tests, 1 regular leveling dungeon, 1 max level dungeon, and Ramu Extreme. And the best part of that set was the Ramu Extreme, and we wiped several times. That was amazing. I get it if you're not good at teaching, or if you get a group that isn't listening, then it sucks. I think one way they could make it better, if you could opt out of a category of duty when queuing for Mentor Roulette, then mentors could, for example, opt out of guild tests. Why is it always either a Mo Extreme or Shiva Extreme? Now that one I couldn't possibly explain. I don't know, but you know, you have a point. It's usually one of those, right? Strat says, I'm one of those that think Battle Mentor should require the Savage Clear achievement for the current or previous raid tier. And I disagree with that, because being a mentor isn't about being a god tier player or an extremely good player. It's about being a mentor. Which is not the same. They're early enough for the players to not know to queue for extremes. That could be. Mental status should require you have all beast tribes maxed. That would be funny. Like, let me put it like this. I think that the requirements to become a battle mentor are too low. But I think you have to have completed the most recent Savage raid or the previous one is way too high. The problem is to actually have a good mentor is about something that you can't really measure in an achievement. But I don't think Square Enix is going to like have like employees interviewing players to see if they're a good fit for a mentor slot, like for a mentor seat. And exactly, Gazel. Playing good and teaching good are two different skills. Precisely. Standardized mentorship written test. Exactly. Stan says, I got Diamond Weapon Extreme once in Mentor Roulette. We actually beat it, which was fun. That is actually impressive. That is actually impressive. I don't know how hard Diamond Weapon Extreme is synced now, but back in Shadowbringers, I remember I had like an FC run there, and we didn't actually meet the DPS check. We didn't actually reach Hardened Rage, but we weren't going to meet the DPS check. Like, that wasn't going to happen. There were like 6 Mentors and 2 Sprouts. Okay, yeah, that would make a difference there. Hello, I'm here for my Zoom meeting regarding my Mentor application. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, also that, Dinky. Screening quizzing faults on dungeon mechanics. And yeah, how would you do such a quiz? But basically what I'm getting at is being a good mentor isn't about being able to just like be a god tier player that when you click Q mentor roulette, you can basically carry anyone. That's not what mentoring is. In fact, some players believe that a mentor should basically, when they queue mentor roulette, it doesn't matter what duty they get, they just need to know it. That's insanity. Like, straight up insanity. But you know what a good mentor would do? You land in Sephiroth Extreme. I like to use that one a lot. You land in Sephiroth Extreme, and you go, actually, I have no idea how to do this duty. What do you do? Ask the group? Should we just give it a try and see what happens? Maybe they say yes, maybe they say, no, we actually want to go over tactics. Then you Google it. Exactly, Civilization. You Google it, see, can I figure out the important highlights we need to watch for so that we don't spend 30 minutes researching this fight, but rather spend like 2 or 3 minutes and go, this and this and this. Let's go. Let's try it. But point is, you go in, and basically what you're teaching them there is, okay, well, I don't know the fight, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how the fight works. Which is also a skill a mentor can teach a new player. And if all mentors need to be god gamers that can remove all obstacles for the Sprouts, you know what you get? You know what you get? Cure bots at level 100. Tanks that don't use defensive cooldowns, and damage dealers that go, ha, big 2-minute cooldowns, who need those? The boss will die anyway, right? So not being perfect so that your group actually has to do their part is also a teaching moment sometimes. And no, you're not a teacher, you're a mentor, and it's not the same. But that's the reason why I think that saying, oh, you need to have done a Savage raid tier is way too high of a requirement. Because that's not what it's about. The boss will die from embarrassment after your awful performance. Oh, that would be effective. Anyway, let's see here. If you would like to join me for leveling roulette, come on over to me. What is the difference between a teacher and a mentor? Did Grey Salem also want to go? Do I have to... Do we already get to the point where I'm grabbing a person a second time? It is complicated to explain what the difference is between a mentor and a teacher, but a teacher is the guy that sits you down and explains to you how exactly something is to be done. A mentor, in large part, is a lot more like an older sibling who sits down and explains to you how they do things. And then we hope that it is actually better than what you're doing. Which also explains why you have mentors that teach some absolutely ludicrous things that are sometimes completely incorrect. Because that's what your older sibling might do sometimes. Not intentionally teaching you something bad, but they're trying to help. But I have a whole video talking exactly about what a mentor is, and I've actually worked professionally as a mentor at university. And a lot of it is about helping the person to figure out how to approach doing a thing, not explaining to them exactly how to do the thing, necessarily. Oh, whoa! We actually have a Dawntrail dungeon. Wow. So hey Jake, hope you're doing well. Thank you, Aerodel. And yeah, exactly. Incidentally, on that list that Aerodel pasted, which is exactly the guidelines for mentors when you like pick up the mentor crown and all that, doesn't include be a god gamer. Doesn't say that, does it? So it's okay if you're not one. Duncan says, I've seen the mentors should have to clear current savage thing before. It never comes from the people comes from people that have any interest or consideration for what mentoring actually involves, and yeah, that's usually what I experience as well. That's also why I'm specifically harping on about this thing that mentoring isn't about being a god gamer, because that's usually what that implies. Well, when I'm doing mentor roulettes as a mentor, the way that I mentor these players is that I basically carry them through the dungeon. And to be able to do that, I'm basically a savage raider, and I would imagine that all other mentors would have to be that as well to be able to do it like I do it. It's about being a devil gamer. Like, that doesn't necessarily mean that all mentors think it like that, but if you come from the position of, well, mentors need to be able to carry the sprouts through things, then yeah, then mentors have to be absolutely amazingly good to do that. But that's also something that I've approached in my I don't think I've brought it up in my in the Dawntrail season of A Good Day in Mentor Roulette, but back in Endwalker, it was actually a regular problem for me that I would have, like, for example, a tank who was playing not great. Not great. But they weren't dying. Like, not at all. It wasn't even close. I was just carrying them and painting over their mistakes. And where some of those kinds of players probably needed some advice. I've also had cases where it was pretty clear that what they really needed was a healer that could carry them for once, so they had a chance to see what they need to do. But if nothing goes wrong, then you don't really have a good avenue to teach anything. Because if you go, well, you should use your defensives more, and they're like, well, I'm not dying, am I? And all you can say to that is, well, no. Then you have a hard time explaining why your advice is justified. Thank you, Sip. Yeah, if you're wondering where we are, Sip posted exactly where we are in... Not when we're not in the dungeon, of course. Also that, fat man, did you know that a warrior can solo a Hukatsubo? Synced. And that's also a possibility, Darth. I will say there are many players that have done Savage that don't talk about it super loudly. So we don't even know that they're Savage Raiders because they don't actually care to talk about that. But the players that are very loud about it are more likely to not care nearly as much. About doing easier content. Some do. And that's something that is really important if you start, say, like, when we start, like, speaking in ultimate, like, in ultimatums and finals and stuff, right? Is that it's not everyone. There are always exceptions. Hey, Michael. Hope you're doing well. At this point, I think it's easier to list what warriors can't do solo synced. Possibly. Possibly. It is still really funny what you can do. Hey, Mystic VTuber, hope you're doing well. Is this the first time? I feel like I've seen you in the chat before. Maybe I remember that wrong. And yeah, that's also true. If you listed what a warrior can't solo synced, it would include a lot of 8-man content. Says, did you know that sprouts are individuals who don't listen half the time? It's kind of like an ultimatum in the same way, right? Uh-oh. Usually it's things that enrage. The solution is to bring more warriors. Yeah. That is actually a good point, Strat. That is a very good point. It's things that... It's often things that do an immense amount of sustained damage, or things with an inescapable hard enrage, or things with like some sort of endlessly escalating mechanic. That means that eventually the warrior will not be able to keep up anymore. But it has to basically be something that scales. What roulettes did you do already? We've so far done expert and high level, and we're doing leveling. We got a little sidetracked with a bunch of things. Sprouts when you tell them to do DPS as it's a DPS check, but they're like, but I'm a healer! Well, that's a pretty funny one. I haven't actually had to deal with that kind of arguing in actually hard content with a DPS check, Connor, but have you? Because I do see stories about that very often, but I basically never see it myself. Like, in easy content, it's a lot more, like, way more likely. NA is a scary place. Is it an NA thing? See, the thing is, I don't want to jump to conclusions. But every time I've heard some, like, really absurd stories, when I've actually been told where it came from, it's almost always NA. That's why I like. That's why I also get to the point of like, what's happening over there? Are you all right? NA is for sure more NA than EU in terms of behavior. Well, yeah, that makes sense. I don't even know if I would say that EU specifically is way more chill, but I feel like EU has slightly more of the, well, I don't want to be a nuisance for the rest of the group kind of feeling. It's not everyone. It's not everyone. Absolutely not. Like, there's bad players all over the world. We're not very okay. Aw. And that's also true. EU has more language barriers. That is true. And as I said, it's not like I've never ran into the kind of player that is like, well, I'm a healer, so I heal. In fact, I've seen them a bunch of times. It's just, they're not that common. And that's also true, Bywater, that because the NA region has way more players than the EU region, it makes sense that we would see more stories from the NA region. And that's something that we can sometimes that I can sometimes forget when we talk about this. And that makes perfect sense. You're right. You're absolutely right. Having more players means that you have more chances of having individuals that are not good. And we usually only hear the bad stories, right? It's a lot less likely that you hear someone share, like, I'm pretty sure we don't have a, like how there's the, was it Tales from Dungeon Finder or Duty Finder? I don't think there's an equivalent one where they share good stories, huh? Is there? I'm pretty sure we don't have that. And a bad like a story of something bad that happened also gets more clicks. So why would you? Also, hey Tate, hope you're doing well. Oh yeah, I have heard about that, Perrin. I think we've actually talked about that before, the Meiwaku. And that's actually something I haven't like name dropped that specifically in a video, but when I talked about the potential dangers of worldwide data center travel and talked about in that video that the cultures of the different regions might clash, one of the things that I talked about was kind of indirectly implying this concept of Meiwaku in JP. that you would be like I said, you might be less likely to run into people that are like really, really underprepared and refusing to learn an EU. You'll still meet them. I don't know if it's actually less likely than in NA. I haven't had enough data samples to know for certain, right? But it would be even less likely in NA based on that logic that they wouldn't want to be a burden. And speaking of culture clashes, I think it took less than a week from OCE being open worldwide before someone who visited Materia reported someone for calling them something that was very tame by Australian standards, but was very offensive by, I think, American standards. Boom, culture clash. That was it. 1 week. Yeah, exactly, the good old C word. You know what would be really amazing about monification? I would like it if there was some sort of like more clear indication that I have the effect from monification and my next melee combo is free on the gauge. I don't know if there is one and I'm just blind, but every time I'm using the modification melee combo, I have this like feeling of I don't have the mana to do that. That would be nice. Hey Shaq, hope you're doing well. Anyway, before we get before the conversation gets too sour on this regional conversation, on the plus side, we can focus on the fact that we at least know that there are great players all over the world, right? At the very least. Hey Danilo, hope you're doing well. I will have to answer that question after this boss fight, I think. Don't know, I think that's not magic, is it? That's probably not magic. Boss smacks you with its blades. Well, I have magic barrier. That'll work, right? Right. See, can I ask you about something personal? What would you do if you enter ARF with 3 sprouts? Not only sprouts, but like 3 players that never played MMOs like WoW and keep dying to dual star over and over. I'm asking that because I'm one of these sprouts and first started with a healer, and I was really struggling to avoid the explosions together with my friends, and someone who happened to be a mentor trash talked us the entire dungeon, and after the 4th wipe, he leaves the duty. Right, so first off, we talked about what a mentor is earlier, everyone. And what a mentor is supposed to do. Just to start, that's not what a mentor is supposed to do. As in, if you remember the name and it isn't too long ago, Danilo, what you should do, step 1, is you do this, this, and this. And you go to town. Step 1. Now, in regards to your situation, dual star. Assuming that your gear is like, okay, you can survive 1 hit from dual star. You know, there's 3 explosions. You can survive 1. And the boss doesn't use that mechanic super frequently, so if you can do the rest of the fight decently well, you won't like accumulate vuln stacks, the vulnerability debuff that makes you take more damage when you get hit by a mechanic. So if you cannot dodge dual star well, which isn't an uncommon problem, this can be something you can't do because of latency. This can be something you can't do because of reflexes. This can be something you can't do because you're new to the game. But if you can't dodge it and it keeps getting you, my recommendation is, if I remember correctly, the ice orbs always go in the center. Which means that the way the mechanic works is that there's going to be fire explosions coming from the sides that cleave most of the arena, except right at the entrance and right on the opposite of the entrance. And the ice explosion is going to be a donut that hits basically everywhere except right in the eye of the storm there. But because 1 hit will not kill you, if all else fails, when you see dual star, run to the door. Just run to the entrance and just eat the 1 hit. Like, use defensive cooldowns if you have any, but you should be able to take 1. I'm not saying if you can't, then you're bad. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if your gear is like not like completely unusually low, then you should be able to survive the 1 hit from failing 1 of the orbs. But if you try to do the mechanic right and you fail, you will probably get hit by 2 orbs, and that you cannot survive. That you cannot survive. So, failing everything else, just run to the door. You will only get hit once. So that would, like, if I was in a group with 3 sprouts that were having a hard time dodging dual star, I would say that. I would say, looks like you're having trouble dodging. You can try, but if you find it too hard, just, you can survive if you just run to the door. And the reason why I don't put a marker on myself to direct people, Zav, is because latency plus human reflexes mean that by the time they can see where they're supposed to be, the mechanic has hit them. Like, that's the reason why dual star is so mean, is because it's just fast enough. It's just fast enough that the players that need your safety Dorito can't react fast enough to use it. I hope that helped you, Danilo. And hey, Strawman, I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well. Yeah, same, Zav. It's never been an issue for me either. I've had individuals that had trouble. I've not been in a situation where people couldn't do the final boss and off. But I've also not been in a situation where a mentor was dunking on the sprouts in the group. Genuinely, I haven't been in such a situation yet. So just to summarize there, Danilo. First, if you can't do the dual star thing, I don't care what the reason is. That doesn't matter. If you can't do it, it's usually survivable if you just stand at the door. Like at the entrance. Like not outside the arena. Inside the arena, you just run over there. There should be a spot where you're safe from all but one of the hits, and that's survivable. Second, mentors should not act like that. No one should. And you can report them for harassment. Hey, Tween, hope you're doing well. Clearly, I'm just a mentor for the mount mentor. Yeah. Yeah, exactly how one does. There is a buff for both the Reaper thing and the Red Mage thing. There's a buff for all the things. But it would be really nice if there was like an extra indicator so that I could just look at the gauge. Like, I don't care if it like just shows that the bar is full or something. When you're making a warrior guide? Next week. Yes, really. Incidentally, it's like it'll be ready next week. The next week. Duncan says at least they can pre-position right and see what they're supposed to do with the marker. Even if they're slow, they'll have some idea of how to do the next one. That's true. The main reason, like, the thing is... Oh, thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships, Shaq. Thank you so much. Very nice. And I hope you enjoy the emotes and the icons, everyone. Thank you so much, Shaq. Let me put it like this. I wouldn't say to someone that they had to just give up trying to do the mechanic and just stand at the door if they fail it once. I wouldn't say it if they fail it twice. If we wipe, specifically because they can't do it, then I might mention it. And if we keep wiping, then I'll be like, okay, well, maybe today is not the day that you learn how to do this mechanic correctly. Let's focus on beating the fight. Do this, and we can beat it. But I wouldn't demand that someone do that and just refuse to let them learn, right? Like, that's not the right way to do things. Gleaming says, I just joined as a 2-minute replacement in Eden Prime, and apparently 4 players had left the initial group the second they loaded in. What's happening with that, by the way? Like, last week, I joined... Like, I did Mentor Roulette. I landed in the second trial of Dawntrail. I loaded in. There were like 2 or 3 people watching the cutscene, and before their cutscenes ended, 3 players had left the group. Why? Why? Exactly that. What's happening? What are these people doing? What are these people doing? Did they forget to hit on? I'm almost certain that like I haven't been able to see it closely enough, but I'm pretty sure that some of these players might be mentors. Cute mentor roulette. Got something that takes slightly longer than they wanted to. Leave. They didn't want to watch the dumb, long mid-fight cutscene. If that's the reason you're leaving, then you didn't have time for that duty anyway. Then you didn't have time for whatever roulette you were queuing for. It could have been longer. They were upset they didn't get a free fight. Is Eden Prime not free? Exactly, Tween. Not a guild test. Leave, I guess. And that's the weirdest thing, is that when I got that trial, I had gotten like something like guild test, guild test, guild test, something interesting. And that's correct, Renamon. If you leave a duty as the first person to leave, then you get a 30-minute penalty where you're not allowed to queue for anything. You can't, even if you have a full pre-made, the game will still say no. You left, so you have to sit in that for 30 minutes. Even if you bring your own group so you don't have to queue for anything, don't care, you're in detention for 30 minutes. But if one person leaves and takes the penalty, everyone that leaves afterwards just gets it for free. So when you see, what you might see is one person who is so unwilling to do the duty that they will take the 30 minutes. And then the players that leave in tow with them are players that are like, well, I don't really want to do this, but since it's free to leave, I guess I'll leave. And then they just dip. Sometimes I think it should reinstate the 30-minute penalty as soon as the party fills again. That might be an idea, but it could also lead to further problems, because then it means that some players might feel even more compelled to get out of there while the group hasn't filled yet. I don't know if they reinstate it. I'm pretty sure they don't. But you know what's the funniest thing that I've seen is I have had cases where someone leaves, like as the second or third person to leave, and then you just sit there waiting for replacements. And Lucas the leaver suddenly rejoins. You're sitting there like, huh? Did someone forget to turn off join party in progress? Oops. That's hilarious when that happens. Right, if you would like to join me for MSQ roulette, come on over to me. Oh boy, MSQ roulette. Just doesn't get better than that, does it? Place your bets. Oh yeah. Should we do that real quick? Give it a minute. Do I have a free company? I have my own free company, but it's like a really small one. Exactly, Dritharian. It's not that exciting, but hey, the XP is good. Says, on the first day of early access, we had our healer leave the final MSQ dungeon because they forgot they had it selected when queuing. We didn't get another healer for the duty in 40 minutes. Yep. That sucks. I think I've had that happen as well. Where we had a lever. And it took an eternity to replace them. Because first day, right? Second day even. Well, Castrum enjoyers win. Congratulations. Strat says, I think it's weird that join party in progress is optional. I kind of get why it is optional, but I'm a little... I would say I'm more weirded out by the fact that join party in progress is turned off by default. Like, I understand why you might... Like, why they would make it a choice to join party in progress. Like, for example, if you're doing a dungeon for the first time, you might prefer to see it from the very beginning. And you could say, yeah, well, they could just make it so that you don't join party in progress if it's your first time. They could do that. They didn't. They've given you the option to just opt out. I'm just surprised that the default isn't on. Alright, Danilo, enjoy your day. How do I turn it on, Renaman says? There's a little cogwheel in the top left of the Duty Finder menu. You click that, and there's a handful of options. One of them is Join Party in Progress. You toggle it. Weirdly, among all these options, it is the only one that is remembered between logins. It's the only one where they're like, well, you turned it on last time, surely you haven't changed your mind. Meanwhile, limited leveling roulette, for example, is never remembered. You have to turn it on every time. But the reason why I'm saying you don't have to make that exception, Strat, is because, for example, myself, my first go at the first trial in Endwalker, I was a replacement. And it didn't change anything for me. Everyone waited for me as I watched the cutscene. I think I got the cutscene, or did I? Doesn't really matter, I guess I didn't. But everyone were okay with the fact that I was a replacement. We didn't beat it, though. Trial 1 on day 1. That was hard. Synthpop says, I hardly ever fill a party. It's rare. I see it more as a mentor, like in Mentor Roulette, specifically. But like, it ends there. It's not like, well, I see it more if I'm playing tank. Meh. I see it more if I'm playing healer. Meh. I see it more when I'm playing DPS. Not really. However, it wouldn't surprise me if it is more likely that your replacement, or that you would get replacement groups, or groups to replace in as a tank or a healer, especially because the example that Perrin gave earlier, that they sat 40 minutes waiting for a healer replacement. And I have had groups where we basically tried to figure it out without a healer, because we didn't get one. So after this, I think in Mentor Roulette you're likely to replace someone in Circus Tower, Tower Paradigm's Breach. You know, I wish I could have that. Can I trade my Guildhest Jail for that? Can I have that instead? Like, I'm telling you, I write notes for each duty when I do Mentor Roulette. You know, for the videos. And my notes, whenever I get a Mentor Roulette, are a hoot. It's usually a one-liner. Are the 3 MSQ roulette fights the same odds to get? I'm pretty sure they are, yes. I don't have evidence to back up that they are, but I'm pretty sure that they are. Even though sometimes it feels like you keep getting a specific one. Yeah. Imagine having an AoE spender. Wouldn't that be wild? The interesting thing about Castrum, Jake, is that while the 3 MSQ roulettes are equally likely to happen, as far as we know, the amount of XP you get at the end isn't the same. I'm pretty sure that Praetorium gives significantly more XP for a clear than Castrum. It also takes longer. But given that it's a daily it's a daily lockout, some players would actually rather have Praetorium. And yeah, it's true, it also gives more poetics. And that's also true, now. That is actually a really interesting point. Real randomness often doesn't feel random to humans. Or, and then like that is actually double-sided in a way. Because a truly random system with a chance to fail will feel more unfair than one that is slightly weighted in your favor. And a truly random system is more likely to like roll the same result 2, 3, 4, 5 times than a system that is designed to not choose the same result twice in a row. But a system that is designed to not choose the same result twice in a row is not as random as something that is actually random. That's actually like, speaking of, if you were asked to write out a random sequence of heads and tails, like make up 10 results of heads and tails, like flipping a coin, like just make up 10 results of flipping coins. Don't actually flip coins, just act like you did and write down the results. Whatever you write is going to be less random than if you had actually tossed the coin 10 times. Even though whatever you come up with is a possible result. And it also means that a result such as heads 10 times in a row is a lot less likely to be a, like, if you were actually asked to do this, like, suddenly out of nowhere, like someone just said do it, I can't, like, there's an extremely small chance that someone would actually just write heads 10 times in a row, because that's not random. Right? That's not random. Even though it's perfectly possible. It's possible. But it's so unlikely that no one would write that. You'd write it like how Viper do their buttons. I'll just write that the coin fell on its side. Fair enough. You see, that's also something you could do. I guess one way you could make people more inclined to try it is if the question was instead write a random sequence of heads and tails, right? Your sequence will be like mixed in with other sequences, and someone has to guess which one is yours. And if they don't guess it, then, I don't know, you win $5 or something. But if they do guess it, then you don't win $5. Then suddenly there's more interest in trying. And again, the funny thing is, a truly random sequence would probably look more random than whatever you can come up with. Unless you use some tool to help you be random. I think you've just created the lottery. You know. Good point. That's also quite interesting, Darth. Yeah, among the MSQ roulette fights here, I prefer getting Porta de Cabana because it feels like something is happening that I'm actively playing for a larger percentage of the duty. Use digits of pi at n places RNG. All the cooldowns. Oh no. Cube coin, call it dice. Yeah, we should make it have like 6 sides as a default. I guess I could survive just standing in it stuff. I just have this weird I just feel compelled to dodge when the game says dodge. Make some have 20 sides, yeah. We'd also have like some of them have like 4 sides. We'd want to have like just a bunch of different amounts of sides. We could invent like this thing where like you act like you're in a fantasy story. You make up your own characters and stuff. Like, just put a bunch of numbers on papers and you decide everything with these so-called dice. We'd call it like, oh, I don't know, we could call it like tabletop RPG. I'm pretty sure D100, that's like, aside from the hypothetical one, like that, like a really big one where it might actually work. I'm pretty sure D100 is usually 2 D10s, isn't it? Like, I mean, I imagine a D100 would, like a real actual D100 would be mostly for the novelty of having an actual D100. There are actual D100s. Oh, fair enough. Are they really big? Yeah, that was what I was imagining, Zav. That's why I said it would probably be really big. Was because it wouldn't, how would it end up on a result? It just rolls around endlessly. Now says I have 2 real D100s. It's a ball with number scribbles on it. It must sound awesome. Rolling a D100 has enmity. I would have expected it to be way bigger, Darth. Are the numbers really small? Celestial Illusion says, I just had the most interesting run ever. A tank who had all tanks 100, yet did not seem to know basic tank stuff. A ninja who just never moved out of AoE. And a bard that was AFK half the time. Oh, wonderful. That reminds me of that Bottom's medal I had years ago. With a tank who refused to use defensive cooldowns and exclusively used 1-2-3 combos. Even when pulling AoE. I was healing them. Somehow it worked out. I asked them to use more cooldowns, and they said, well, you shouldn't be attacking. You're a healer. You should be healing. So since you feel so carefree to be attacking, then I have no reason to use defensive cooldowns, because you're clearly fine. And they were actively leveling their final tank to max level. And their argument for they knew what they were doing is that they had already leveled all the other tanks, so clearly they were good at the game. Remember everyone, having leveled a job doesn't mean that you're good at the game. Right, next up we are doing Frontline. If you'd like to join me for Frontline... Wait, do we have a group 2 in the works? If you'd like to join me for Frontline, come on over to me. We might make multiple groups and see if we can queue into each other. Alright, Celestial. I'm sorry about that group you had. Enjoy your dinner. Group 2 came back. Oh, excellent. Celestial Illusion says, I had to hardcast heals on a warrior while doing single pulls. And... yesterday, I did the first mega pull of one of the level 100 dungeons without a healer as a warrior. There sure is a big gap between a good and a bad one, right? Shaq is making group 2. If you want to be group 2 for Frontline. Healer strike. The more you pull, the more you can GZD benediction yourself. It is really strange. Because you just like you don't need to pull mega huge to get the most out of it, but it like if you have the survivability to do it, you might as well. That's also the reason why when I'm doing the solo challenge that I pull as much as possible, because even though I have to run away sometimes, the amount of damage I gain from cleaving harder is always better. I think we can have a group 3? Do we have a group 3 forming somewhere? Yo, Sibidaridel is running a group. Well, what I mean, Derby, is more so like the biggest pull you can do. A group 3 has space for player 4. And group 3 is over there. So the way that we do it when we do frontline like this is I will say a time. And I will queue. So you like everyone set your watches, set it to Eorzea time. I will say a time on this clock. By the way, I've set it to 24-hour format. And it's usually just the minutes you need to look at. And when that time, like when we hit that time, I queue. If we all queue at the same time, assuming none of the 4-man groups get like instant queue pop, we will all be in queue. And that means that when like 72 people have been accumulated, we all land in the same match. Same group? Not necessarily, but same match. Right. I will ready check here if group 2 and 3 do ready checks on their ends. Let me know when your groups are ready. Group 2's ready. That's group 3. They're also ready. Alright. I will queue when it says 35. Dun 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 and go. Pixelmancer's very weird in Frontline. I had a lot of fun with it. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's really weird. Like, it feels like you spend just as much time setting up your motifs, like, so that you have the right things set up for a burst, as you would spend setting up your limit break. It's pretty good if you use your team as meat shields. Oh no, I'm not talking about actually, like, painting your motifs. What I mean is, like, the... Palm Muse increases your damage done, and the Wing Muse, Group 2 didn't get a pop. Ah. That's a first. That sucks. Well, we're over on red team. Yeah, the Palm Muse and the Wing Muse boosts you as a Pictomancer, whereas the Fang and Claw Muse do something to the enemy instead. Oh, Group 3 is on blue team. But that means that the way I prefer to do it as Pictomancer is try to get my burst set up so that I have Palm Muse ready so that I can boost the damage of like my Retribution of the Madine by 20% and my Comets by 20% and things like that. Wing Muse is also decent because you can use those to more quickly toss out Morg of the Ages and Comets. Like, it's less damage, but it's just like it comes out faster. I think I talked about this yesterday on Discord. You can pretty much see where, like, how I'm not targeting something unless it has low health or happens to be a specific kind of job. Like, nope, that one has too much HP. Not doing that one. Oh, danger bongos. Danger bongos. Woohoo. There's a lot of yellow over here. Hi guys, just putting down my Dotson. Don't mind me. Nope, mine. Ah. The greed. But it was mine. I'm pretty sure I got it. I guess I was late to that party of getting sniped. Huh. Hey. Hey, blue team. You noticed that we handed the entire map to yellow? Yeah, I just realized just now. Whoops. That's not the smartest move in the book. Wow. Wow, we got very heated in that match. Just dueling over one spot, and then yellow's like, we'll just take the entire map then. It's fine. We'll just take the whole thing. Like, if you're offering. Ah, I really hoped I could just do that. That was a wasted LB. We should probably go west. There's at least points to get from the second place, which is going to be first place. Why is that random warrior marked? Oh, nice. Blue got the center spot. Blue's getting the one on the right as well. Wait, what did I get a kill from? My Gogamega kill from earlier? Huh? Okay. It's free real estate. Oh, you're dead. You're dead. Guess what? You're dead. You're also dead. And you're maybe not dead. I'm dead. Well, that went really well, I would say, until I died. I even got to full battle high, basically, and then I died. Wait, why? Why were they 1v1ing a random Viper? Huh? Why? And that was extremely dangerous. It's a miracle that I came by and had exactly a heal up my sleeve and a stun for the Viper. Like, I just happened to be in the area. Like, well, I have exactly what is needed to turn the tide and save you. Cover our bases so that someone doesn't just come in and stop us. We don't have the points in the bag until we actually have the points in the bag, as you know. What are we fighting over? We're just fighting over kill points? Whoops. Yeah, I didn't expect that to work, but he's still dead. Don't think we can take that. They're pretty solid on that spot. Kirihin, you better survive. You better survive. I threw myself at them to try and help you escape as well. the peak over the hill. Can we actually take that point? I don't think we can stop them from taking it. It's too deep in their pockets. And I think the 5-star is going to blue. I think blue's winning. You don't want to 1v1 a ninja as an astrologian with less battle height than me. What was that? What was that? I think they were extremely mad at what I just did. By the way, congratulations to blue team. Wow. I think, did I get like 4 kills there? Just yoink, 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 yoink. Why do you win in particular, Sip? Because you were blue. Okay, I thought because you said I win, I thought it was something you did that specifically meant you won. You got me twice? I didn't even notice. But you know, see, the big mistake here, Sib, is it doesn't work well for the argument you posed yesterday because you did it with Dark Knight and not Samurai. And not with a Samurai limit break. I'm just kidding. You got me. Maybe that explains why I died so much. Because I didn't realize there was like a strike squad out to get me specifically. Someone placed a big square mark on a full pink ninja from red. Oh. Wow, okay. Yeah, so the red team just had like a kill on sight on me the entire match. Blue team had. That's hilarious. I think I did really well, if that's the case. I only died 3 times and I still did like approximately the amount of damage that I usually do. And I got approximately the amount of kills that, like, I actually got more kills than usual. Like, I think I did really well, especially if I was being hunted. I mean, that was fun, and congratulations on winning. With that said, let me just do this. If you would like to join me for Trials Roulette, come on over to me. How many do we have? Don't tell me, are we exactly 9 again? We are exactly 9 again. I think. Are we not? We are. Game, allow me to bring a 9th player. Wow, we're a lot of people here. We almost have, like, we could almost have 2 groups. Rosters, I can free space for the 9th player? Well, it's either you or Giraheen. Like, that's up to you. Yep. Right, guys, so... anyone that want to play healer? Got any healers in the chat? Well, that is really funny, Gazel. Like, I almost wish I could have seen the POV of one of you in that match. Because I hadn't even considered that someone would just put like a big kill marker over my head from your team. Can we do it with one healer? It is cat. So it might be fine. I think it happened because you had Battle High early on, but I'm not sure who placed it. It took me quite a while to get full Battle High. So it would surprise me if I had it for that reason alone. Since you were playing Ninja, there's a good reason to aim at you anyway. Absolutely. I'm also really good at sniping. So, just generally, not a bad call to mark a ninja. Like, I'm also, like, when I'm diving in and doing shenanigans like that, I'm most afraid of opposing ninjas. Because they might be able to do the same shenanigans that I do to you back to me. And because there's a ninja present, they can take me from, like, they can finish the job more easily. So, like, the mere presence of a ninja is really scary. Like, you start seeing Fuma shurikens flying your way. And you're, like, closing in on 50% HP. Then you need to get out of there. Or heal yourself. Because if it's me, then I have a closer eye on your HP percentage than you do. Like, I'm actively counting. And the moment that you drop below 50% and you don't heal, that's when I click LB. I'm just like, right, you don't have anything probably. And it works a lot of the time. And if I'm not certain, I'll just go, well, you're below 50%. What if I stun you now? Like, that's the thing. Raiju is there as like your guarantee that, like, the LB goes through. So if you're a ninja and you're having trouble with, like, you use your LB, but the person healed, so it didn't work. Like, if that's a regular problem you have, just stun the person before you do it. Just stun them. Problem solved. I'm not being very good with my Flächen Contra 6. It's so weird to get a trial like Titania. I'm like, surely I have like 2 steps of the magic burst, right? It's not that long ago, is it? Level 74, you probably had tons. Nope, you just barely have a magic burst at all, buddy. I was wondering. For a moment, I thought we were actually going to skip this. It took so long. Oh. Bigger is better.
Bigger is better.
Oh. That was quick. Oh, right. Sometimes people use like a Mage LB between Puck and Peace Blossom. Because you have it. A bit late for that.
Dance like the leaves on the vine. This is so much fun. Let's play some more.
I'll play a little bit more, but you're going to die quickly, Titania. Wait, what? We already have LB1 again? Huh? Why? You did the water mechanic right, so here you go. Nice. Wonder how much a limit break sticks you to the ground? Yeah, it really holds you for a while, doesn't it? Right. Next, we do normal raids. And then before we go into alliance raids at the end, I'll see if we can like how many we are that want to go. Maybe we should split up in multiple teams. Yeah, like I don't think it's quite 10. I think it's 8 seconds. Where you're just stuck there. It's actually a lot of time. Where you're just hoping that the fight doesn't suddenly turn. Right, Tay. Good luck with the re-clears. Hope you get some good loot. What? What? Ah, yes, P2N. That's not a hard fight. I had to do this once on a Sunday afternoon as Sage with a co-healer Sage that refused to do any healing aside from attacking. They didn't res either. It took a few tries. This was near the raid, what will kill you unmitigated? Perhaps on Savage. Ow. But it did hurt for normal. I'm pretty sure it's like this. Right, I couldn't quite remember if it was the head or the body that was a line. I was like, hey, hope you're doing well. The hippocampus, yeah. Ah, yes. Friendship tacos time. That means stand with a friend, or it hurts a lot. Oh, that could be a. I could also imagine that on day 1, I did do this on day 1, I'm pretty sure. People were severely undergeared. Like, or rather, they were just barely geared, right? Speaking of no gear, the fight is almost over. And that's also probably worth mentioning that when I did it as Sage with a co-healer that wasn't very helpful, this was still, like, relatively new. Like, it wasn't like week 1. the reason I was doing it on a Sunday was because I was helping a friend. Doing it, getting their first clear. And Sunday happened to be the day where they could. Flee from the loot! Escape the loot! Congratulations, anime freaks! It's a tough fight. Right. So for the grand finale, we have alliance raids. Just checking everyone that is in the... Oh yeah! Shaq would just be yoinked because of the cutscene, that's true. Hamza's the only thing I can think about with that fight is the minimum ice medal run with small kind. Yeah, that's also true. And there, the raid white didn't one-shot us. Which is also part of the reason why I was like, I'm pretty sure it doesn't one-shot you. But it's very likely because of all the mechanics on Hippocampus that it will, like, wear you down, and then it'll do a raid white, and then you die. Or you have a Vuln stagger too from a previous mechanic, and things like that. Wasn't Hippocampus also the one where we had, was it Gazel switch to Conjurer because it was funny? Wasn't that the fight where we did that? Like, not only were we minimum ice medal, one of our healers was a class, not a job. Like, I'm just saying, we really trolled Hippocampus on that one. Just memed on him. Yeah, we don't need good gear. We don't even need 8 jobs to beat you. And yeah, Hippocampus, I do believe, like, both Hippocampus and Phoenix were pretty difficult on normal. Right. I'm assuming everyone in my group would like to join for alliance raids. I don't know if we should do something to split up. Like, I don't know if it's just us 8. Or what's going on there. This is going to be a fun spell to use when I finally get to use it. I have loot. I have gear. Don't need to figure that out yet. Well, I guess we're doing it like this then. Any guesses at what we're getting? See, I'm going to guess Aglaia. Just going to throw it out there, Aglaia. See, we have a bet for Thalea, Circus Tower, any near raid, Dunscaith, another near raid. We have one saying City of Ma. Any of the Realm Reborn ones. Puppet's Bunker. None of the near ones because Monaco doesn't have them. Fair enough. The thing is, the reason why Aglaia or any of the Endwalker ones would be pretty neat is because they actually give really good XP just out the box. And then also the Alliance Raid bonus. But we of course get... Well, Derby. There you go. Could be worse. I mean, this is pretty good. I don't mind this one.
Come, mortals. Make your way through our watery sanctum.
Supposedly, this is the easy one, isn't it? Isn't this supposed to be the easy one? Congratulations, Celestial
Let us
Illusions.
see how you fare against my servants.
It's less optimal. Sure. But you know what? Getting your daily roulette bonus and also Salaya is pretty effective. I'm pretty sure that's better than specifically queuing for Aglaya. But you're right. I would say that's really good. Got World of Darkness this morning. I would still rather have that in my mentor roulettes than Guild Hest. Oh man. Wake up, dear. It's time for your 4 under the armors in a row. It's not about whether they're easy, Twin Tiger. It's not fun. Like, they're very, very easy, but it's not fun. See, that, like, that's actually the interesting thing, Twin Tiger. If you're there, if you're doing your mentor roulette to, like, get it over with, then you'd rather have a guild hest, probably. If you're there to have fun, then you would probably actually prefer a Realm Reborn Extremes. Yesterday, I got Ramu Extreme with 7 sprouts. I explained to them how the fight works and we got it in a few tries. But if I had gotten guild hests, I could have gotten... like, I could have completed like 30 guild hests in the time it took me to beat Ramu right then. So like, if I was only there for mentor roulettes, that would have been more effective, definitely. But I get the incentive as a mentor to go, well, I'd rather have something that's easy so that I could get it over with. Oh, really, Gazel? I did it... I think I successfully did that one twice in the same day. Like, successfully killed all 5 before they, started resurrecting.
Not all knowledge is wisdom.
But it is one of the more interesting ones. It's impressive. Thank you. I discovered doing it that it actually takes quite a while for them to respawn. So all you have to do is throttle your DPS when one of them becomes invulnerable. You just, like, if you just have one player in your team just not attack, you might be able to do it. I'm not saying it's easy necessarily, like, to do that specific maneuver. I'm just saying I was lucky and did it twice. I'm not saying, like, I'm not trying to devalue your perspective, Gazel, not at all.
Join me in deepest knowledge.
That's very random, Celestial. Does Red Mage fall in the same category as Dark Knight and Scholar in that they have like sort of weird toolkits? I don't think it does. But if they did, then you'd have a like almost like a themed party. Hey, also that, a lot of magic mitigation. That's a good point.
Small wonder the others have exalted so.
Small wonder the others have exalted so. Small wonder. Where are you putting the balls?
O waters purifying, reveal their nature.
That says not DPSing is the hardest mechanic in any game ever. You know, the thing that... Oh, I have forgotten to use Lucid Dreaming. The thing that makes that duty that Gazel mentioned, quote-unquote, so hard, it's called Ward Up. The thing that makes it hard is that... it's 5 mobs. They all have to die on paper at the same time, but it takes like a good 10 seconds or something before something starts to respawn, so like it's actually extremely lenient. What makes it difficult is that before you can kill any one of them becomes invulnerable.
Not all answers
And
can be obtained through might.
normally that wouldn't be a problem, because you just go, oh, I'll just wait for the invulnerability to end, right? But the invulnerability doesn't have a timer on it. So if you see a mob that is invulnerable with no timer, do you think, it'll go away with time, just keep attacking? Or do you think, I need to do something to get this buff away? Maybe the other mobs are giving it invulnerability and I have to kill them. The problem with Ward Up is that it's an invulnerability with no timer displayed, but it has a timer. So you're supposed to wait. You're supposed to just wait.
Well done, wise
Like, if you
children.
just wait, it'll go away naturally, but it doesn't have a timer, which is how those kind of mechanics normally work.
I see. Come then, mortals. Have you got
And when he
the
says, I expect
stones
most
to
people are
face
just
the
so used
navigator?
to brain off in guild tests. Definitely.
Don't keep me waiting. Let me prepare a suitable
But the thing
stage
is,
for our
you know what
journey.
happens if you ignore that thing where the water-up mobs res each other? You know what happens if you ignore it? They'll respawn, and then you kill them again, because it was never a matter of difficulty actually killing them. Like, that was never a problem. So, like, the reason why people don't really bother to learn that is because that wasn't a problem. You save maybe like 10 seconds by doing the fight perfectly. And that's true, Gazel. The sad thing about guild tests is that some of them actually show something interesting. But because the fights are over so quickly, like, you can just choose to not play ball. Like, you can just choose to not do it, and you'll still win. Like, that's really the problem here. Like, for example, my situation where I'm like, more than a feeler, what do the bubbles do? I guess they... What do you mean, Coco? What do you mean, Coco? Oh, Zav got the kiss.
Like the stormy seas, I'm a harsh mistress.
Oh, the microcode. I'll have to check. I saw that there was a beta version that didn't match my specific processor that has been out for a few days. But thank you. I thought you meant something completely different. The code for my board, that could mean a lot of things. Like what? Oh, no worries, Coco. Thank you for watching out for me just the same. Those wondering, we're streaming on a 14th gen Intel processor that is having a bad time. It's doing better, but it's it's not in good health. So we're holding out for a microcode.
That's the way, my clever serpents.
On that one, you have to make it so the bubbles don't get hit by the bad breath. That's possible. I've heard that the stale bubbles you need to kill. And there's also, like, rotten bubbles or something like that that you specifically don't want to kill.
Don't be shy.
But even if you... Oh. Even if you don't kill the stale bubbles, you won't have any trouble. Because any rotten jams that spawn from you dealing with it incorrectly will not be able to do enough damage to threaten you before the boss is dead.
Swim free, my pet.
Like that's the sad part about many of these skill tests, is that because the boss is too weak, even if it had some sort of gimmick that it wanted to use on you, the boss will die before it can do it. Does anyone know what the, like, what's the intended problem that you need to solve in Under the Armor? I see, like, ads spawn, but they don't do anything before the boss is dead. I'm guessing you're supposed to be scared of the ads. Isn't that also the gimmick of Annoy the Void?
It falls to you and yours to navigate the seas ahead.
I think it is. It summons dogs that when they die, they drop fires, and if the boss is near the fire, it does more damage, but it's a single buff if it is near a fire, which means, like, if you actually kill the dogs, there'll be like 15 fires. And before you can put them all out, the boss will spawn more ads that will drop more fires. So, Under the Armor is just ads. Yeah. The thing is, such a fight supposedly would be scarier in a situation where only one person in your group actually has AoE.
Strong are they who roam.
It's supposed to teach you about ads in a boss fight. That is actually quite interesting. We didn't have AoE back when they were relevant. I'm pretty sure that warriors had overpower in Under the Armor back then. I'm pretty sure they actually had overpower back then. And Paladin had flash. That, of course, is a much bigger problem because that doesn't do any damage.
must persevere.
I'm pretty sure warriors have always gotten overpowered level 10. And I think Flash was like level 4 or something like that. Like ridiculously low level. Oh boy. Total chaos. Flash was level 6. Okay. I remember that wrong. Still super early though.
My bowstring sings.
But like exactly because that duty is like level 10 or 11. Like many of the guild tests are actually like level 10 or 11 or so. It's a lot more crucial whether overpower was level 10 or not, because it could also have been like level 15. But I'm pretty sure it was level 10.
You can overcome this. I know you can.
Arise! Earlier than Shield Bash? Isn't Shield Bash... Is Shield Bash level 10?
Your prayers have given us strength. By fighting you, that strength shall be returned to the star. Come, grant us our heart's desire.
Thank you, Mystic.
Say not your steps. Those who hesitate are lost.
It would be easy to check the overpower thing, I think. If you go... Oh, you already checked. Fair enough. Yeah, overpower was 10, flash was 6. The key being that I'm pretty sure that all guild tests put you like at the lowest at like level 10. Twin Tiger says I miss shield swipe. As someone who played in Stormblood who had shield swipe, I get it. But I also understand why, in retrospect, I don't want it back.
Here our journey ends.
The upside of shield swipe was that it presented an offensive benefit for doing something defensive, and also it represented something more you could do with your shield. I'm 100% for giving paladins more stuff to do with their shield. I just don't think shield swipe is it. And the reason for that is... Oh, thank you for... Wow. Thank you for celebrating 17 months in the Cult of the Pink, Coco. Bunny.
May the wind ever be at your back.
The reason why I don't think shield swipe is the thing is if you've played Black Mage at level 50, you know how basically after every single cast of Fire 1, you have to mash Fire 3, you know, just in case you get a proc. And like, that's okay-ish, but because you wanted to use shield swipe basically immediately if it was available, it didn't really present a, like, something to think about. It just presented something to do. That's one way to think about it. Another way to think about it is before bards got charges on Bloodletter, during Mage's Ballad, basically, every GCD you basically had to do like you click Burst Shot, and then you like mash Bloodletter, just in case you get a proc, and then Burst Shot, mash Bloodletter. Well, it would be Heavy Shot, right? But you know what I mean. Like, you click a GCD, and then when your GCD fires, you're mashing your OGCD, the one that might activate, just in case you have it. And that's optimally how Shield Swipe ultimately boils down to. And yeah, there was also the thing that shields would have different block strength and block rate. The problem there is that, and yeah, again, like I'm like over here, like immediately, like shooting down the cool idea. It is a cool idea, but it, just like different swords with different swing timers, sort of become muddied by optimization. While blocking more frequently is nice, being able to use Sheltron and block the big hit from the boss for more damage with a bigger shield, because you could generate the resource to Sheltron more frequently, like by just using like Sword Oath, for example. You didn't need to have like a shield with a high block rate to block when you needed to. The benefit of a smaller shield with a higher block rate, of course, is that you would block more frequently, so you could use shield swipe more. But they removed shield swipe, whether it was because it was too good or because it was annoying to play with or whatever it is. Don't matter. You remove shield swipe now. Optimally, you should just grab the shield with a higher block strength. Oh yeah, it had the pacification, that's a good point, but they could have just removed that. It's the same as with swords with various swing speeds. Like, paladins used to have different swing speeds on their swords, so like they could have one that swung faster or one that swung slower. Most jobs actually had that. But because with Sword Oath you generated gauge whenever you swung the sword, a faster sword was pretty much always better, because a slower sword didn't provide any benefit. Like, it's like the World of Warcraft argument of, well, a slower sword means that when you use attacks that, like, do a swing, you get more damage out of them. But then you remove the part where you have attacks that actually use that part of the weapon. And then it's optimal to always have a faster one. And the best way to solve that problem is to just not have it. But it was interesting. Like, that is actually an interesting way that you could make other factors than item level impact which weapon you choose. You're like, well, it is an item level upgrade. It would make me do more damage. But this sword is faster. So I can, like, I actually generate resources better with this faster sword. So, like, there is something there, but if ultimately you'd rather have your game be focused on just item level and not make it too complicated, well, welcome to Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. I think that's the easiest way to put it. But yeah, that is a good point. Shield Swipe having pacification meant that it could present like a strategic value that it otherwise wouldn't. It's just that because you had to basically spend the proc as quickly as possible, because, like, the problem of, well, you can't get another proc before you spend your current one, it kind of removes that tactical value, right? I don't need to math out swing speeds too. Yeah, fair enough, Gleaming. And ultimately what would probably happen is that people would just find it really unsatisfying. Could you imagine if the Savage drop weapon had a slower swing speed, so you're like, well, you actually, like, the ultimate oof in this scenario would be the Savage drop from, like, the final boss in a raid tier has the slower weapon, but it for some reason, well, for a logical reason, it also comes with critical hit and determination. Like, it's perfect, except it's really slow. And the slightly worse weapon, the one for tombstones, has skill speed on it, but it's really fast. So you feel compelled to take it. Twin Tiger says, so you really want those skill speed materia, eh? No, you don't. You actually don't, because skill speed doesn't actually affect your swing timer. It increases the damage of your auto attacks. It doesn't actually reduce the time between your auto attacks. Isn't that weird? It's almost like they predicted that this would be the solution. Your skill speed increases the damage of your auto attacks. And because it increases the damage of your auto attacks by a percentage, because weapons with varying swing timers also always had, like, relatively speaking, the same damage. So, like, the slower weapon just did the same damage in, like, bigger, meatier hits, whereas the faster one would do the same damage over more hits. So it didn't change any, like, it wouldn't change anything. The only time it matters is if you have, like, a job that specifically generates a resource as a result of an auto attack, which ninjas used to do as well. They used to generate Ninki from their auto attacks. Which actually meant that maintaining Huton was even more important, because your auto attack swing timer was actually affected by that. It still is. Hey, Emia. Hope you're doing well. But yes, shield swipe was cool. Having something happen as a result of being from blocking was cool, but in practice, with the way players optimize the game, the way that shield swipe would ultimately get used in current day Final Fantasy XIV is you have to mash shield swipe after every GCD, just in case you get it. Yeah, our overpower was level 12. So you wouldn't have it under the armor. Oh, that does change some things. Like, slightly, I guess. That is true. So hey, Orion. Hope you're doing well. This is the last thing, Ymir. And Flash was level 8. Oh. So they've moved them down before I got into the game. That makes sense. And every paladin would have to main tank? That too. Every paladin would be like, I have to main tank, otherwise my shield stripe deeps. I have to be the main tank because my deeps. Oh, Derpy, you just barely saved our group from the red mage blind. I was just about to do it. But that is indeed also a problem that shield swipe would represent. Is that paladins would... Like, we've sometimes talked about the concept of some tanks being better as off tanks or main tanks. Paladins already have this thing where because they're always capable of blocking, technically you're losing out on value if the paladin isn't tanking. Like, if they're not actively tanking something, it's like they have a permanent defensive cooldown running that just isn't tanking anything. But if they had shield swipe, then that defensive cooldown would represent a damage loss by not being utilized. And that might not be a great situation either. And if you wanted Reprisal, Dark Knight would have had to main tank, right? Yeah, because Reprisal used to be something you could use after a parry. So yes, indeed. And that's actually really a really interesting point. Because by Stormblood... well, first of all, by Stormblood, Dark Knight didn't have that problem anymore. But if we take it, like, because I'm not entirely 100% sure on everything in Heavensward, but in Stormblood, we also had the interesting difference that the 3 tanks had different ways that their stance switching worked. Like how Paladins needed a GCD to switch Oaths, Dark Knight needed a GCD to switch into Grit, and Grit also caused MP, if I remember correctly. Which you needed for Dark Arts. And only Warrior could freely switch. I'm pretty sure in Heavensward and in like the first patch of Stormblood, when Warriors switched mode, like still it was just an OGCD, you could switch at will, but you lost your resources when you did. Like in Heavensward, you would lose the stacks that you got, and you needed 5 to Fell Cleaver Inner Beast. In Stormblood, you would lose your beast gauge, but they removed that in like the first major patch, which meant that Warriors could switch mode for free. Like, it just do whatever you want. But that was the first patch of Stormblood. And that's also true. Warriors used to have Unchained, which removed the 20% damage loss of Defiance. Oh, you wanted me to blunt this raid wide? Sorry, the paladin wanted to do extra damage. Huh. Oh, that would be pretty funny. But yeah, that would have meant... So like in Heavensward, paladins had shield swipe. They had that. And Dark Knights had Reprisal, which was accessed after parry. Warriors, I mean, Inner Beast healed them. And the stacking buff from Defiance, like when you build up to an Inner Beast, gave you more healing received, things like that. But uniquely, Warrior could switch stance, quote-unquote, for free, mostly, as long as you didn't like have a build-up of resources. Paladin had to offer a GCD, and Dark Knights had to offer GCD at least to switch into tank stance. Paladins couldn't block magic attacks? Yeah, that's fortunately something they've changed. You still can't parry magic attacks. There's also the thing that in Stormblood, Paladins got an additional way to manage their oath gauge. So before Stormblood, the way you generated your ability to use Sheltron, I don't actually know if it worked like that. But in Stormblood, you had the oath gauge, which works the way it does now. It's just that Sheltron's effect was, for 50 oath gauge, you can block the next attack. Singular. As in, increase your block chance to 100% until you block once. Not all blocks for 4, 6, 8 seconds. Just one hit. It restored some MP for you, but... yeah, including auto attacks. Exactly. It was really bad. I actually looked like through like patch notes and saw that at some point Sheltron had a cooldown of 30 seconds. I guess that might have been Heaven's Ward days when you like didn't have to build up Oath Gauge or something maybe. But in Stormblood you needed to build it up. And the way you built it was if you were in Shield Oath, when you blocked, you generated 5 Oath Gauge. So you needed to block 10 times naturally, then you could force a block after that. And that forced block would also give you 5 Oath Gauge. Which meant that a shield with a higher block rate would build that resource faster. But shields with higher block rates usually had lower block strength, so the Sheltron would kind of suck. Meanwhile, if you had a big shield with a high block strength, it would take you an eternity to build those 10 blocks so that you could block the thing you actually wanted to block. But when you did, ooh, that would be a big block, assuming it wasn't magic damage. Or an auto attack. But, if you were in Sword Oath... yeah, exactly, Sheltron used to give you some MP when blocking. If you were in Sword Oath... your auto attacks generated 5 Oath Gauge, which of course meant you wanted a faster sword if you could choose that. Because though, like, the faster sword would generate Oath Gauge faster. And you just had to swing 10 times, and that's also how it works today, right? But when we got to Stormblood levels, Holy Spirit, you know the one. If you were in Shield Oath, casting Holy Spirit would generate 20 Oath Gauge. Not like piddly measly 5, 20 per cast. So you could, like, if you needed to block soon, you could go Shield Oath, Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit until you were ready. And that of course also explains, yes, Holy Spirit was Stormblood. Holy Spirit is level 64 and was added in Stormblood together with Requiescent. And that's also why I'm saying in Stormblood. And why I'm talking about gauges. Keep in mind, everyone, now that we're talking Wayback Machine, gauges. You know, these bad boys were added in Stormblood. So, whatever way a job worked with a gauge, didn't exist in Heavensward and A Realm Reborn. And if it did, it worked differently. For example, Astral Fire and Umbral Ice used to be a buff. Zartun, are you talking about Onslaught? Because that's the tank gap closer that cost resource. It was pretty funny because Onslaught was in such a weird position where because it was an OGCD. Yes, it was 20 gauge, that is correct. Because it was an OGCD, there was an argument to be made that if Onslaught did enough damage, it would have been worth it. Like, if they actually buffed the potency of Onslaught to make it like, well, it's worth it for your beast gauge, like it isn't a loss, so you could use whenever, then it would be optimal to use Onslaught instead of Fellcleave. Just use Onslaught on cooldown. If Onslaught did enough damage, because it would be a way to spend your gauge without spending your GCD. It wasn't high enough for that, ever, but that was the problem, is if they buffed Onslaught so you didn't feel bad about spending your gauge on Onslaught instead of Fellcleave, then it would inadvertently flip the script and be like, well, then it means that it's kind of stupid for you to spend your gauge on Fellcleave. There's no way to resolve that other than remove the cost entirely. However, I did find it funny back when Inner Release just made it so that everything you did was free and automatically critically directed for its duration. Which meant that you used Upheaval, you used Onslaught, like as many Fellcleaves as you could muster, but specifically the singular Onslaught, because, hey, it's free. But yeah, Onslaught was the original. No. Don't waste your gap closer. You need damage. You're like, you see the bosses over there. Yeah? It'll take me several seconds to run over there. And my GZ is ready. Yeah, but Onslaught costs Fellcleaves. You know what also costs Fellcleaves? Not spending my GCD. Didn't Upheaval used to be HP scaling like Spirits Within? I think so? Yes. What? Excuse me? Added in Stormblood. Nothing in all of Stormblood. Upheaval, perfect on arrival. No changes needed. Shadowbringers, potency increased by 50%. 50%. No longer requires the effect of the stances that enabled your beast gauge, and the effect potency decreases as own HP decreases. Potency also affected by maximum HP increasing effects granted to self has been removed. Does that mean that if you had 20% more max HP, it would do 20% more damage? Or does it mean that if you have 20% more max HP, but you have less current HP, you would lose the HP as a result? Like, you would lose damage? It's really random. Well, apparently Upheaval was Warrior's answer to Spirits Within. And yes, Spirits Within used to do less damage if you had, like, if you're missing HP. Fun. Personally, I also didn't play Warrior that much before Shadowbringers. I liked Paladin better. But this kind of logic with holding your gap closers for the burst is still a thing because of raid buffs. It's still a thing, but it's less of a thing. What I mean by that is because it doesn't cost you a resource to use intervene, the only incentive to like hold intervene for Paladin was or is, well, does it cost you more damage than Fight or Flight would give you? It's not much. Dartun says Warrior was be geared enough to have damage stance on the whole time. Well, the thing is, optimally, in the days before Shadowbringers, that was the life of any tank. Optimally, you don't need the tank stance. And once you don't need the tank stance, it's actually your raid's problem to maintain, like to manage the enmity. And that's correct, Tiger. But it was an example. If I take my time machine and rewind back to Stormblood, then Plunge existed. And the only reason why you wouldn't hold those is because it didn't have a charge system. Like, that's the reason why it works like this. But it's the idea that gap closers are held for bursts. Kind of says, I was wondering what is your favorite I guess job? And which do you main? I kind of switch between that, but I really enjoy Viper recently. However, I am a Warrior main. Satun says, I remember being kicked from Susano Extreme groups for not having DPS right side on. And see, this is part of the reason why they resolved these kind of things. The fact that it was possible for a tank to tank with their damage stance all the time meant that players that didn't understand how that was done, which was partly the DPS players had to manage their enmity, would demand at times that the tank should do it anyway, not understanding how it works. Basically, the hyper sweats, the hyper nerds, who thought they were the big cheese, but they weren't. They watched a guide this one time, and the tank was in damage stance, so you should be in the damage stance, otherwise you're bad. Meanwhile, they don't see that the job they're playing are using diversion on cooldown and things like that. The ninja ability also helped, yes. But yeah, on the first raid night where we were going to do Savage Kana, I rolled up with both Viper and Warrior ready to go. And I chose based on what we needed. Nazun says, yeah, but I had 70 plus totems and I was joining a first clear group. Correct. That's what I mean. The hyper sweats that don't understand why and how people do things. But they see the very broad and vague picture and think they know. That's what I mean. You would have DPS players demand that the tank use the damage stance, and when you then inadvertently lost aggro to that DPS because they didn't manage their enmity, they would blame you for not doing enough damage as the tank. And ignore the part where they didn't use their enmity management tools. That is, of course, not everyone. But those kinds of disagreements is part of the reason why I believe the reason they took away damage and tank stances is because they discovered that too many of the players weren't mature enough to handle that kind of power. Catdamon says, I have several strong memories of warriors switching to damage stance before melding in Big Bottom's metal pools. Well, to be fair, without damage stance, they can't use Decimate. So there. Without HP, they can't use Decimate. Well, that's the healer's problem. The biggest downside of tank damage stances in the olden days, in my opinion, is that because it was possible to use the damage stance if you were good enough, notably with the asterisk of sometimes it requires your group to be good enough, it meant that only the best warriors were actually allowed to use Fell Cleave. Only the best ones were allowed to play with Fell Cleave. You're bad tank, you're not good enough. Inner Beast for you. And Dark Knights had the same problem of they don't get to use Blood Weapon if they're in grid. And Blood Weapon used to reduce your GCD by like 20%. During it. So it was like this crazy frenzy mode you went into. And well, Paladins had the Oath Gauge thing. It's hard to do the Shirk thing nowadays because Shirk, as it has always done, only moves 25% of your enmity. So you need to very carefully control your enmity to actually have a chance of having a DPS be within range to Shirk them, to meme on them. Like, you have to actively make sure you don't have too much enmity so that the DPS can keep up. Because with only one Shirk, they would need to have 51% of the enmity you have for Shirk to put them at the top. If you have two tanks, however, they only need to have like 26% if both tanks have the same amount of enmity. But yeah, the big problem is exactly that. The old systems were more intricate and more interesting in a way, but for the most part, for the majority of the players, it didn't bring joy necessarily, and was more likely to bring disagreements. And for the players that actually enjoyed it, I'm pretty sure the players that enjoyed, like actually actively had fun with the enmity system, were the tanks who were playing only in damage stance anyway. Which meant that the enmity system was actually a DPS and healer problem, not a tank problem. The tanks just had to taunt right. And Shirk right. And then hope that the group, like, didn't mess it up. That's a little bit weird. And yeah, exactly, it's probably mostly the nostalgia that does it. Yeah, Cat says, I remember using diversion once every 2 minutes. Very fun. Exactly. When it really comes down to it, enmity was this thing, total chaos mechanic, that people had to manage in a very specific way. But once you had figured out how to manage it, it was just sort of, whenever you joined a random group, oh boy, I hope my group knows how to manage it. The end. No enmity management next pool, deal with it healer. Healer uses Medica too. Boom, now they have aggro, then they die. Fun. Then use lucid dreaming. That cuts your enmity in half. This last hour of conversation brought to you by Kai's hatred of Under the Armor. I suppose so. That's where we started, right? But that does remind me that this is about the time where we might wrap it up. So, if you enjoyed this particular stream, it helps me a lot if you leave a like on it in the YouTube stuff. That tells the algorithm that this was an enjoyable stream, and you'd like other people to enjoy it as well. So, of course, that helps me. So, thank you so much in advance. And if you enjoyed the wonderful company of the people in the chat, or me, there is a Discord community server that you can join where you'll find, I would say, most of the people in the chat. Some of them have been quiet for a bit, I'm pretty sure, but they're there. You'll also find the weekly schedule. You'll find announcement room where you'll find links to streams and videos when they come out. And if you go to the role assignments room, you can grab the reminder role, and if you do, you'll get a notification when I post a video or a stream. And an extra notification around 15 minutes before a stream starts, so you don't miss a second. And if you'd like to support the channel even more directly, you can become a member, you can gift memberships, you can use the super chat system, or if you don't like the YouTube shenanigans, there's a Ko-fi link in the description or in the chat that where Aradel posted it. But that'll be all from me. Thursday, we have more solo challenge stream, so I hope to see some of you there. More warrior stuff. And we're doing some Dawntrail dungeons. But with that said, good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world, and I hope to see you all very soon. Bye-bye!